But yeah, you can rest assured you're not going to get lynched, at least literally, though you're probably going to be metaphorically lynched at the gas pump every time you go there, which probably matters to you more. Joe's biggest announcement of the week is that what he's doing to ease your pain at the pump, which of course is not increasing or in any way incentivizing the increasing of domestic production. Instead, he's tapping into the National Strategic Oil Reserve, ordering the largest release since the emergency stockpile was established in the early 70s. Biden will release 1 million barrels a day into the market for 180 days, which very conveniently gets us right about up to the midterms, actually about a month shy, but pretty close. So how much is this going to actually help? Well, it's going to take a few weeks, Joe says, but get ready for the savings. You could see as much as 35 cents a gallon.
Oh, Lord.
In lowered
Thank
costs.
you.
Mr. President, how much in monetary terms do you estimate today's announcement will reduce gas prices, and when can Americans expect to see these changes?
That's a really important question, and there's no firm answer to it, but prices already came down. They could come down the better part of, anything from 10 cents to 35 cents a gallon. It's unknown at this point.
It's unknown.
The prices already came down, like I told you. It was the record in LA. 2 cents.
Whatever.
Amazing.
Whatever this old bastard wants to do to tank the country, I support him.
He's your guy.
Really.
Blonde will be wearing Biden re-election campaign t-shirts on the stream in about a year's time.
I will.
As far as what you can actually expect, it's not going to be 35 cents a gallon, not just because Joe said that, which is a good indicator that it's not true. But even if you do just the basic math of this, and by the way, even if it was 35 cents, it's not a big help considering that gas prices have increased $1.50 in the national average in the last year.
This is what they did with unemployment. They're like, unemployment is down. It's like, you created a situation where it was way higher.
We'll get to that in a minute. Great news. Jobs created, quote unquote. But I looked at the math. The U.S. consumes just under 20 million barrels of oil a day. So this release at 1 million barrels a day is roughly 5% of that demand. You could just assume maybe that translates to a 5% reduction in prices. That's a rough assumption because, of course, there are way more variables at play than just that. But let's assume that simple analysis is ballpark accurate. That would account for a drop of 20 cents per gallon tops. And of course, I wouldn't consider that to be likely as we head into the summer, Memorial Day. Demand is only going to increase. So at best, maybe we'll listen to the Today Show and Savannah Guthrie saying, well, the rate of increase in gas prices has slowed, and this is great news. Maybe we'll get that. Also of note, the Strategic Oil Reserve is 714 million barrels total. Now we're talking about taking 180 million barrels out. I'm not sure if we have plans to add to it while we do that, but if we're not, that's a quarter of the Strategic Oil Reserve erased. And we're spending a quarter of our oil reserve not because we don't have any oil or the ability to produce it domestically, but because we simply don't want to produce it on our own. And just some tinfoil thinking for your consideration. I don't even think it's that tinfoily, but is the depletion of our national reserve actually a broader push toward green energy? Because once you spend that supply, we can really make the case that oil is supposedly no longer cost effective, especially when we spend the means that we have at our disposal to try to address those out of control prices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And speaking of making oil no longer cost effective, you scroll down in this New York Times coverage of Biden's plan here to release some of the national reserve. And it says here, now the good news is he has to ask Congress to do this. At least that's what the story says. But he wants to fine the oil companies if they have active leases for drilling and they aren't currently using them for drilling. So we've already talked about a lot of the obstacles for drilling beyond just the permit. You have the environmental regulations. There's securing of capital to make sure that you have the money to do it. There's a worker shortage in the industry they lost 6 figures in 2020 of just the people, the manpower to do this. So on top of that, now if you don't do it fast enough, potentially you would face a fine. Who the hell's going to get into this business? There's every obstacle, every hurdle thrown in your way. they, like I said, they have to go through Congress to get that policy put into place, it sounds like. So hopefully that's not going to happen. But again, it's not that hard to think that this is a deliberate attempt at raising gas prices long term, not alleviate them.
Right. Maybe
So,
that's the plan.
I can't think that this is anything but, because it's not that there are easy solutions to this. It's not like you just press the easy button and gas prices go down to $2. But there are some fairly easy solutions, as in get the hell out of the way. Just get out of the way, but they can't do it. They have to get more in the way, but tell you that they're helping the prices get lowered, even though, as we've seen, the effect is going to be minimal.
And then they give us a stimulus, and then we're beholden to them, further beholden. Maybe this is just increasing the amount of dependence on the welfare state.
Maybe. I think there's some ulterior interest and motive afoot. But, don't worry, because you're still in for some savings. Once you buy an electric car, you're going to save at the pump by not going to it. Once you put solar panels on your house, you are also going to cash in. Joe promises.
The most important thing my plan will do right away is save your family money. Here's what I mean. Under my plan, which is before the Congress now, we can take advantage of the next generation of electric vehicles that a typical driver will save about $80 a month from not having to pay gas at the pump. If your home is powered by safer, cheaper, cleaner electricity like solar or heat pumps, you can save about $500 a month on average.
The hell's a heat pump? Should I know that?
I actually don't know. I don't know what that is. But he's going to save your family money, even though... Have you seen some of these numbers? The latest inflation reports say that the average family is going to spend over $400 a month, or currently is spending $400 a month more, $5,200 a year more for the same general products than they were a year ago because of inflation. That is a massive number. Over $5,000 a year more for things like food, gas, energy, your typical bills, things that you can't really avoid. As far as just buying an electric car, the average electric car price is $56,000, according to Kelley Blue Book. It's $10,000 higher than the overall industry average, which includes gas and electric vehicles, but the equivalent of an entry-level luxury car. And of course, electric vehicles, whether maybe you want to try to buy one used, something like that, try to lower your costs that way, electric vehicles are suffering from the same problem that the regular gas-powered car market is. They're not easy to come by as far as new cars. Used cars are greatly inflated. If you buy a car at this price and you save $80 a month, it's 56 years until you see the payoff if you pay that average.
Right. Isn't there a huge natural gas burden for the usage of electricity anyway?
Well, obviously, it depends on the environmental benefit depends a lot on what the source of the electricity is. Are we burning coal to provide that electricity? Are we?
Well, they're not being powered by nuclear power. I might sound like an idiot. I don't really understand any of this. So.
Well, and then the other problem with electric cars is the batteries, and those have to be replaced on a somewhat regular schedule. And those are hugely expensive too.
Right.
But as far as putting solar panels on your home, so $50,000 for an electric car, you want to put solar panels on your home, that's an average cost of about $19,000. So if you saved $500 a month, as Biden said, you'd at least see that pay for itself in 3 years' time. The trouble is $500 a month was a huge lie, or as the AP fact checkers say, it was a misspeak. Biden meant $500 a year, not $500 a month.
Yeah. And so, $500 is going to be what it costs to buy a loaf of bread in 6 months. So I don't think people really care that much.
Well, maybe if you get your solar panels installed today, assuming you can find anyone to do it, any sort of contractor to get that done for you, maybe it'll be super cheap because in 3 years' time, it's going to be $100,000 to have those solar panels installed on your house.
I shouldn't even bring this up because my husband just mentioned it in passing and I failed to verify this. But is it true that in Washington, they are no longer going to register non-electric vehicles after 2030?
I heard something to that effect. I don't know what's going on in Washington, and I know part of Biden's plan here is to increase average fuel efficiency in gas cars to something like 49 miles a gallon, which is already a 10 over the current required, something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers, but
it's going to be impossible. That's only in 8 years, and they're talking about not registering old vehicles that aren't electric.
Well, that's insane. You're just going to force everyone.
I know.
Okay. Well, get ready for the savings in your elder years. You got to pay a hell of a lot now, but you will see the savings on the other side of this very big and very long hill, which sounds a lot more like a Ponzi scheme than it does an energy plan. But this is what we're supposed to get with.